All right. What was that changing around? Let's reorganize everything first. Like 200 degrees. Ugh. Guess that's just me. Steven, what's up? Feel awful. I got like that 24, 48-hour airport bug. It's like starting to get better. But I've had a fever the last like 3 days or something stupid. I was in Charlotte. RC Charlotte was this past weekend. You're in San Fran a bit ago and got the same thing. Yeah, public airports just brutal. Thanks for the invite. I mentioned it to you in Stanford back in like January, and nobody said anything. Don't give me that shit. Let's see. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, here's my receipts. All right. So I wanted to go over some of the changes I was making to the list that I ran. What was good, what wasn't good. Play at least a league with the adjusted list, and then maybe get into a second. Depends on if I still feel like I can play or not. I mean, I could have been genuinely thanking you. Just really aggressively all caps thanking. Steven coming in with the 30-month resub. Thank you so much. Welcome back to the subscribers again. Got a commercial when tuning on your stream and puked in my mouth a little bit. Understandable. I puke in my mouth when I see that my stream's going live too. It's a very common natural reaction. Control freaks going. All right. I kind of feel like I can afford to just cut the thought seizes. Thought seizes was like good into black white and pretty mid against everything else. That said, what's the next RCQ you plan on going on? I know the modern RCQ season starts in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. And there's a modern ban announcement in a couple weeks for all formats BNR announcement. So depending on how that announcement goes, whenever the next RCQs. April 17th for the RCQs. That's the start of the modern season. I thought there was like a week overlap where the RCQ season was starting, but the bans wouldn't be in effect yet. But maybe I just misheard on that one. But I thought that's what they were saying. Again, could very easily be wrong on that. Wondering got banned. Is Tron or Control a thing now? Yeah, well, so I lost Friday. I played in one of those like 5-round win a big oversized card things. And I lost my round 5 to actual factual Tron with Natty Tron game 3 on the play. And that same player got 10th at the RC, so at least somebody's doing well with Tron. But Eldrazi Ramp, which is, I guess, the Tron variant now, is really, really good. Jeskai Control is okay. Not great, but... Oh, Miracles has been getting played. I know Gabriel Nassif's been doing really well with Miracles. Blue-white control. Really like old school blue-white control. But yeah, the Eldrazi ramp deck's like the closest thing to Tron style now, because Sowing Mycospawn's just a stupid magic card. The Dingo was talking about how he absolutely crushed it RC Charlotte to the point that you were questioning your whole identity as a Demir professional. Oh man. I talked about the matchup in my last video. Dingo was on the play game 1. I mulliganed my 7 looking for like a Thoughtseize or a Force Negation or a Spell Snare. Didn't see any of them. Kept a 6 with like a turn 2 Frog and no Force, no Thoughtseize. His turn 2, he started going off. I didn't have an answer. Eventually fizzled and passed with like a flipped Ral with 7 counters on it or something. So like I had to play out my Frog to try to pressure the Ral, and he just comboed off the next turn. And then game 2, he had his 1 Gemstone Cavern on the draw. And on like turn 4 or 5 or something, I think I played out 5/5 or 6/6 Murktide, holding up Counterspell, and he top decked an Orm's Chant. And I was like, okay. You got it. I guess if we're considering that dumpstering, then yes, I got dumpstered. Okay. What else was I changing? Consider preordain. Surgical didn't do much. Clearest case of dumpstering I've ever heard. Not arguing. The dumpstering, by all technicalities, happened. I don't know why I can't remember what all I was changing. Might just end up like throwing another card in here and jamming. Spell snare. Did want to try it third Harbinger. Also found there were a lot of games I was playing where I kept one landers, even on like a mulligan, just didn't see a second land. And I really would have liked to naturally have the second land. That might be a little too much of an ask. Also wanted to try a couple Stony Silence. So let's try that. Something. Within these are supposed to be March flats. So never mind. That one for now. I've been playing standard lately. It's trash. I'm sure some shit is getting banned though. Is it still like the issue with the Beanstalk deck being really, really busted? Not sure why up the Beanstalk is still okay. So answers my question right there. Yeah, we'll just jump in and play some while we chat. The red deck is like top 3 all-time red decks. Is it still the Leyline mono red with Leyline, or is it just mono red? Yeah, Beanstalk with the Overlords is very, very dumb. But I mean, that's just like another question of why do they keep printing these really expensive cards with cheaper alternative costs that like keep their CMC? How easy would it have been to just make these Overlords say something like pay 3, discard it, get an effect, instead of you get to actually cast the thing. It's just not a creature. We're back. They're back sewers. Oh yeah, Mono Red's got the Screaming Nemesis thing, don't they? Underground Mortuary, so could be Yawg. Shock in a Watery Grave, just to like represent Fatal Push. Guess I probably should have considered in response and looked for a force. Not completely punished. Let's get down our frog. No Leyline, just Manifold Mouse and Monstrous Rage. Monstrous Rage is kind of ridiculous in some of those mono red decks, since they all get like the heroic style triggers. Agatha's Soul Cauldron. Okay. Whenever one or more artifact and or creature cards leave your graveyard, you gain 1 life. Get the exile stuff. So, probably not Fatal Pushing this Yawgmoth. I do need to get this frog airborne pretty quickly. So I think I'm going to discard Push, Thoughtseize. Sexix, what's up? Start getting in with my frog. Opposed to that one. Congrats on your RC run. Really wasn't that good of a run. Day one was fine, but day two, like, I played pretty bad. Harbinger with the cheese wins. Day two, I just like had a combination of not making a couple good decisions combined with a little bit of like sloppy planning. No way. I didn't think you'd play Tamio at the end. I shouldn't have. So I wasn't planning on playing Tamio. And then towards the very end of my preparation, I saw that Tamio had been in a challenge winning list. Like 2 Tamios, 2 Kaito in the main of a list that won a challenge on Thursday or something. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'll give it a shot on Friday in the side events and see what happens. And I ran it and just like never saw Tamio or Kaito. And so I ended up just kind of running back the same thing on Saturday and did not care for it. So I should have just stuck with what I knew. But kind of started thinking at the last second, oh, it's got main deck Tamio and Kaito. It's really good into black-white. But black-white ended up just being like half the percent that Breach was. So just kind of overthinking it. All right. I've got this Spell Snare to fight over Dredger's Insight or Agatha's Soul Cauldron. But if they just have it turn 2 Grist, and then nothing matters, right? Have to consider looking for a subtlety. Maybe not. What do you think about possible unban at the end of the month? Do you have any hot takes? I don't think I really have any hot takes as far as unbans go. I've always been pretty adamant about my position that I think like Deathrite Shaman is fine. There's a lot of stuff on the ban list that would be completely fine to unban. Just like wouldn't have a major impact. I don't really see them just unbanning something for no reason. I just bought 4 shamans and 4 ponders. Good choice. Thankfully, I've had my 4 ponders for a while. I don't think I own 4 shamans anymore. Maybe like 1 or 2. Curious on your take of Deathrite Shaman being fine. People are very split on this one. I think the people who are very in the camp of like Deathrite Shaman's problematic are the people that just like saying Deathrite Shaman's a 1-mana planeswalker over and over again. Realistically, if you don't want to play against Deathrite Shaman, that's fine. I get it. But to say, like, this thing that kills you 10 turns from now is problematic and, like, wrecking the game or whatever is a little bit nuts. I think, like, right now on board, I think there's a better mana dork than Deathrite Shaman. All right. Let's go to the endurance. Fun. My issue is that Deathrite Shaman and Ketamine Moose is too busted together. Just any 2-mana or any mana dork into Catcher Moose seems like on the same kind of power level to me. I get the exiling something from the yard, but I don't know, it just seems like trying too hard to make that combination problematic. I'd rather deal with Deathrite into Ketramose that I can answer than uncounterable Ketramose. I mean, Moose turns every Deathrite Shaman activation into a draw. We already have that with Relic, and it's like not overbearing, right? So I don't really know why we're saying, oh, but it's now overbearing because it's stapled to a creature instead of a relic. But the creature's got to not have summoning sickness and survive the removal spells. You think we should play Shaman with our best friend Frog? I don't think so. Like, I don't agree with the idea that I think Shaman needs to just get auto-slotted into every black and white deck, or black and green, or black, blue, whatever. All right, I'm gonna let him block and then just like throw a bunch of stuff into this frog, kill the endurance, play out a big Murktide. What am I discarding? If I discard Force, Snare, Watery Grave, then I can get Undercity and just surveil over whatever I get. Sure. Force, Snare, Watery Grave, kill the endurance, a Murktide. Why in the world are we not keeping up Spell Snare to avoid the very obvious Bowmaster response to consider? Because I didn't give a shit about that Bowmaster. Like, that Bowmaster doesn't matter. The endurance mattered because it stopped the Murktide. But the Bowmaster wasn't doing anything. You look at the top card of your library anytime. You may cast creature spells from the top of your library. Creatures you control have tapped to add 1 mana of any color. Carry on. You have got a Yawgmoth. Different questions. Splinter Twin Rhinoceroses finished RC Charlotte with a staggering 66% win rate. What bands would you suggest to bring the deck back in line with the rest of the modern format? First off, I have no idea what Splinter Twin Rhinoceros is, or what that's supposed to look like, or anything of the sort. Okay. What am I expecting this to be? Do I think this is removal spell for Psychic Frog? Do I think it's endurance? Tamer Rhinos with Splinter Twin? I mean, that just sounds awful. Cord for 2 doesn't do anything because it's just getting Bowmasters. It was an endurance. They can't have, or I guess they could have Veil of Summer or Fatal Push. Hey. Thankfully didn't matter. All right. I'm on the play. Roll with it. No frog, but we've got some cantrips. I haven't updated Moxfield yet. Like under the weather, so was not at the top of my mind. I'm gonna keep the subtlety. I could very well see this game coming down to like just subtletying back-to-back Titans or something. Subtlety, counterspell. Explore. Hmm. I hope we find another land. Fatal push for a construct. They appear to not want to make. Stock up in Titan. Sure. It has indeed gone to. You're pushing it. You're pushing it. One stock up was one thing. Double stock up. Turn 3, double stock up. I'm gonna main phase this consider because like I know I'm looking for a land drop. What do I think about this deck? Seems so competitive. What about Amulet or about Demir? My deck? I mean, my deck's reasonable. Yes. Got a grazer. You've got 100 billion, trillion, quadrillion mana. Yeah, I think Demir's good. I really hope this doesn't go the way it's looking. Opponent, please, please don't let this go the way it's looking. I beg of thee. I beg of thee. Oh man. Felt dirty. Didn't like that one bit. Didn't like that one bit. He said not today. You're playing Blue, Black, and Timeless and just hearing you laughing. Not particularly care for this hand. Opponent kept 7. Turn 1 Sewers, turn 2 Thoughtseize, no free spell. Yeah. Nope. So I gotta throw 3 back. What about 1, 2? Played Delver and Charlotte. Couldn't quite LCQ though. Delver was fun. That's everybody on the Delver train at the moment. That's a good draw. Elves' opponent played Chalice on 1 and flexed their 1-mana elves with caverns. Gross. Your Elves' opponent sounds like a mean person. We'll take a Spelunking. Stock up here. Hopefully I can find the second land. Maybe I was supposed to take the stock up so they couldn't dig for like a dismember. Kind of rude. I was on Grixis with the uptick of Black, White, and main deck Relic. DRC felt bad. But I slotted Delver in instead and really liked it. I'm just like very adamantly in that camp that I don't think Delver of Secrets is a playable modern card, like at all. So I have a really difficult time forming any sort of reasoning to want to include it. Play your Titan, see if I care. I don't disagree if I'm being honest with myself. It surprised me and it's my favorite card. Well, I've always been in the camp like if it's your favorite card or if you enjoy playing a card, then play the card. But I'm not going to be the one to argue like, oh, I think Delver of Secrets is good, because I don't. All right, you've got quadrillion approximately mana. All I want is a Harbinger. Not a Harbinger. Well, oh, they had the Otawara. I kind of hate that we like halfway made this competitive on a mold of 4. Couldn't find the third land. Don't really want to change anything. Just draw better forehead. Thought season the frog we will keep. Razor, Dismember. They have no green mana currently. Am I just taking the Dismember? I think so. Show me basic forests off the top. Great meeting you on Sunday after the tournament. You as well. Definitely enjoyed everybody I got to meet out there. Hope you had a safe trip home. I'm assuming so since you're here chatting, but never know. I think I'm just gonna consign the second chapter ability on Saga. Am I? Yeah. No constructs for you. Yeah, I just had like one of those 24, 48-hour airport bugs that I still got like finally starting to come down from a little bit. Land. Loses the construct ability forever, right? Correct. They just can't make a construct then. They can't make a construct on the next turn. All right, so their hand is Explore, Grazer, Titan, Unknown. Unknown, unknown. Find the Shifting Woodlands. Try to rip a Titan here. Aggressive. On land. Need you, buddy. Is this how the good guys fall? I needed them to not find a green source. Alas, they have done so. Not find a green source. That third land would have helped. Oh, they're going to do this. Sweet. Thank you, opponent. Everybody say thank you, opponent, for casting Primeval Titan instead of using the Shifting Woodlands on the one in the yard. That's 2 more chances it'll land. What did I do to deserve this? Mm. Wouldn't they need double green without tapping Woodlands to really use the Titan? Well, I'd assume. I guess that last turn, yeah, you're right. By just forcing this. They did put Primeval Titan on top. So their hand is Arboreal Graves. Yeah, Arboreal Grazer, Primeval Titan. So force this. Get to next turn for free. The turn will pop the amulets. For a couple. Get our black source. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. They didn't have double green and they didn't have double green and the woodlands. So we would have been okay right there. Good call. What do you think of Modern after Breach being banned? Healthy, Orzhov Blink is a favorite. I think it'll be okay-ish. Like, I think Orzhov's a good deck. I don't know if it'll ultimately need something hit. I do think the Ketchermost builds are a lot worse than the Vile builds. But we'll just have to wait and see. Like, I don't know if they're going to ban just actual Underworld Breach or are they going to ban some card out of the deck that doesn't really matter. Are they going to reban Mox Opal? It's like, it's really tough to say what the format is going to look like if they ban something from Breach because it can change drastically depending on what they ban from Breach. Thyroid. Let me know how to pronounce it because I'm sure I'm butchering it and I apologize for that. But thank you so much. Glad to have you here. It should finally ban Amulet of Vigor along with Breach. Do we think Amulet's in the same realm? Say hello to Shadow Z's, a buddy from the Discord. If they say hey, I'll say hey back. But I usually never say hey first. I'm gonna keep Sync on top. It's a really good card to pitch to either Subtlety or Force. Allows turn 2 wins. There's a lot of cards that allow turn 2 wins. Where's the band scale up or band Glistener Elf talk? Those allow turn 2 wins. I don't like this. Nice. Sure. Take my frog. Not taking my frog. That mean that you've got a removal spell for the frog. All right, I'll bite. And strike it rich. Ban all 2 mana reducers. Ban infect. Ban Neo form. Are they playing Mono Black Necro? No. Shadow Z 2005, come back. The swamp tapping was too powerful. Oh no, my Shadow Z. Can't leave me hanging like this. No. Oh, rejoined. Rejoined. Oh, the frog shall die. Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. Altsies. Isn't it kind of disingenuous to compare an elf to Underworld Breach in power level? Maybe. Possibly. So it's got to be Necro Dominance with Prismatic Vista, right? Maybe not. Really not sure what that signifies. All right. Hope this does something. March of Wretched Sorrow it for everything. I had a game against Black White Necro Dominance in Charlotte that just came down to like my opponent hard casting just came down to my opponent hard casting stupid like 6-mana thing. Soul spikes at me, 7 mana, whatever they are. This is real magic. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this one either. Black White Eldrazi was, or Black Colorless Eldrazi was not on my bingo card. How you doing, Charlotte? 6-3 day one, and then like 2-3 drop or something day two. Like day two is not very friendly to me. All right. I still have zero idea what's going on here, but usually mono-ish black means I kind of want Kaito. Um, I don't know if they're on like Kozilek command or something else besides Thought Not Seer. I don't know if I want a bunch of consigns or a couple consigns. I think I'm not going to bring in, we're not going to keep in the Harbinger. Hell Snare looks pretty bad. I don't know if they're on Necro or not. It feels like they should be on Necro, but I didn't see anything that screamed Necro to me, so 4-1 into missing day two. Yeah, I think I started off like 3-0, then dropped to 3-2 or something. Then like had a little bit of a roller coaster at the end. But I think I had to win my last 2 or 3 to make day two, and then I know we saw a lot of swamp, but maybe they're on Eldrazi Temple and Ugin's Lab. Very possible. I'd just be surprised to see triple swamp with, what was it, double Thoughtseize Fatal Push, and then also be heavy colorless. I'm really not sure what direction to look for. Potentially this. Potentially. Yep. Guess everything kind of checks out. No, my boys. Ashiok Dream Render out of the board. Shoot the Sheriff, Pithing Needle. Dreams of Steel and Oil. It looks like Selfie Sec won a challenge with it like 2 days ago. So I could very easily explain. What you got? Bobble. Oh, well. Oh, this list does have Bobble. Okay. Never mind, we good. Bobble target themselves. They only have 4 fetches. Sure. I think I'm going to go ahead and get my Thoughtseize on. Just they drew into an unknown one on my upkeep. Very friendly hand. All right. Push, Kozilek's command. If I can find a Murktide, I can dodge both of those. Or just like another Thoughtseize, because he's only currently got one Colorless potentially. So we could get around the Kozilek's command if the mana just doesn't function. But going into game 3, if there is a game 3, I'll probably look towards bringing in some Harbingers, cutting some Murktides. Because if this is in fact the list that got sent in chat, 4 Urza's Sagas is pretty significant. Draw. Okay, that means I don't want to tap off of Counterspell yet. Hmm. Yep. So I know their hand exactly is the Kozilek's command, Fatal Push, Prismatic Vista, Nethergoy. Okay. Maybe we can figure something out. I really just kind of want to get them to use up this Kozilek's command. That'll kind of run them down on dig potential. Does pump the Nethergoy, so I got to take a hit off of that, but figure something out after that. Sure. Activate only as a sorcery, you say? Alright. Another Nethergoyf's a little annoying. Could just go to counterspell this. But if they choose to Colorless command response to my counterspell, I'd have to shuffle away my Merc to consign, so. What all can this saga get? Shadow Spear, Pithing Needle, maybe another Spell Bomb. Yeah, definitely definitely would have sided pretty differently if I'd known what this deck was all about. I can flash in Subtlety. They would have enough mana to Kozilek's command it. Maybe that's not the end of the world. I guess it's actually pretty bad for me if they go like Kozilek's command the Subtlety, exile my yard. I think I'm just kind of cooked this game. Yeah. Okay. At least we have a better idea what we're up against now. I'm just going to drop Thought Seizes. Play more action cards. Do I want the third copy of Harbinger? Four Near Deadlands, 4 Prismatic Vista, 2 Urborg, 4 Saga, 4 Eldrazi Temple, no other ramp. I think I do. Spell bomb only stops Nethergoy. All right, I'm gonna play out the sink into stupor on one instead of the flooded strand because they've got 4 Thoughtseize and 2 Inquisition, and I don't want my second mana source getting Thoughtseized. If they're gonna go for it. My dismember. I think I'd rather have the blue-black source now and try to play around another Thoughtseized mana source. Taking the dismember could mean they've got an Emperor of Bones. Like something they want to play out threat-wise pretty soon. Okay. Seems like a reasonable keep. So I could flip face down whatever's on top, or flip into the yard whatever's on top, untap, sink into stupor, cast Murktide. I think I will do. I like a fetch land here because now I can surveil, try to get another point of power on this Murktide, get to keep my sink into super in hand as a pitch to force or subtlety. I'm going to exile my frog in case of Emperor of Bones. Masters is good. Definitely not spending a subtlety on that. Shadow Sphere is fine. Nether Goyf. I'm gonna let the Nether Goyf go. I've got the sink if they try to like go in on the Nether Goyf or Shadow Spirit up and try to go in. So I think I'm in a reasonable spot to race. Oculus dead. I wouldn't say Oculus is dead. I was never like a huge Oculus fan to begin with, but once like the reason to play Oculus was a better Boros matchup, and then once Boros lost the One Ring, the Dimir mid-range list, like the traditional Frog type list, started doing a lot better against Boros naturally, and now the percentage win rate difference between like Oculus and non-Oculus against Boros is basically negligible. So you've got the choice of taking Oculus and losing percentage points against a bunch of other decks, or taking Dimir, gaining those percentage points against like a lot of the rest of the field, but not running Oculus. And I kind of like having those percentage points against everything else. I'm pretty surprised that they chose to use the double swamp to equip up the Nether Goyf here. It has 20 lands now because of 6 cantrips, or isn't 21 lands the sweet spot anymore? This list I've got right now on screen is 21 mana sources with 6 cantrips. Like, I think you want to naturally have the second mana as much as possible. You do not want a cantrip on turn 1 for the second mana source if you can afford not to. So you don't really want to cut down too many on the lands and risk like not being able to have turn 1 interaction into turn 2 frog. Yeah, like whenever I have a hand, whenever I have a land that's, or a hand that has one land, like a preordain or a consider, and a psychic frog, plus maybe a fatal push, spell snare, something like that. The worst feeling in the world is always when you want to fetch up a surveil land, but if you miss, you can't play a turn 2 frog. So then you want to consider to see an extra card to try to find that second land, or preordain or whatever. But if you do that, it means you're not fatal pushing, you're not spell snaring, whatever the case may be. So now you've just given up like two full turns of interacting, where if you just had a hand where a second mana source was already in that hand, then you could have interacted on 1, played the frog on 2, gone back to interact on 3, and been okay. I just think, like, if you don't have that second mana source naturally, more often than not, then you really risk throwing those first couple of turns off curve pretty hard. All right, so I know one of their cards is the Nethergoyf. You would have subtletied. Well, I wanted to hold up Force of Negation in case they've got like a Shoot the Sheriff or something. I didn't want to use an extra card. Just remember wasn't necessarily on the radar, but we'll take it. I just didn't want to tap off of hard cast Force of Negation. Like the Murktide's killing them, so no sense in giving them a window to do something. I don't think it really would have mattered, but might as well just like use the card that might not have another target. I guess what would worst case scenario be? Like evoke subtlety, ditch the consign, hold up the Force Negation, and my opponent evokes a Shriek Maul. We're looking for reasonings here. Opponent is playing for their trophy. Last seen today on Ruby Storm. Opponent gives us the GLHF, also known as I'm playing something aggressively unfair. Which, if they're playing Storm, checks out. Hand's not great. I think I'm going to keep it because it does have Thoughtseize into Frog. But there's absolutely a million ways this hand loses to Storm. But if I can at least, like, Thoughtseize on 1, land a Frog on 2 after maybe not dying, maybe there's a chance. What you got? Let's see the little spinny beach ball lag of death. Photo looking like currently. Getting on up there. Might have to reset after this match. Round and round she goes. When she stops lagging, nobody knows. Opponent asked what my record was. I said 3-0. They said, nice, I'm 4-0. You're my ultimate boss. It's like, man, I hope you don't run me over too hard after that. All right. Let's start off with Thoughtseize. See what happens. See what we're looking at. Boros should be unbanned. How'd you come to that conclusion? I'm not even saying I disagree, but I also think that like Luris was banned before people really got a grasp of how good like the evoke elementals were. Ooh, they had the artist talent and the ruby medallion. Hand's not great otherwise. Yep. All right, well, that can potentially bounce an artist talent in the future. See, when Lurus was legal, we had more top decks: Hammer, Death Shadow, Jund, Rakdos, Amulet. We had a lot of decks, but a lot of them were very, very similar. You get to like the whole argument of, oh, here's Lurus plus X amount of things that just go in your Lurus deck, right? Ooh. Artist talent, reckon me. It was kind of like, okay, here's your Lurus as a companion, and then you throw in your 4 baubles, your 4 whatever cheap recurable hate piece you want to have, like your dress downs or whatever. And then the rest of it's just like decent cards to go with those. That could be interesting. Go ahead. Let's go. Let the RAL trigger resolve. Ask my Bowmaster. Start going upstairs. Like some draws, some artist talent triggers. Maybe some RAL missed flips. All right, so RAL flip resolves. Artist talent trigger does nothing. No mana on the stack. We're gonna force negation this Past in Flames. Found another. Oh no, this is the flashback one. I think they've only lost what, one flip? They hit. Good grape shot, plenty of rituals. Yep. Good game too. All right. Artist talent did the Lord's work there. Have to keep in a bunch of bowmasters. Guess I could bring in second EE over a bowmaster and not feel too bad. Rel, Ruby Medallion, Artist Talent. This is kind of what I was talking about with those one-landers that are reliant on like the turn one cantrip. Doesn't look quite as bad being on the play here, but still I'd kind of rather have the actual second mana. Yep. Pedro, appreciate it. Hope they have a good practice. Like this would have looked so much better if I had the frog on 2 and could attack in on 3. Good old Storm. Yeah, I feel like it's not really worth it at this point. Just to get all these chances to flip Ral. Nope. Rough. Feel like I'm not hitting functional hands against Storm recently. No turn 1 seas, no spell snare, no force, no second land. Probably could have mulled that first 7, but what was it? Just find any land, any untapped land. We got turn 2 frog, turn 3 counter spell. Missing that land happens to me way more often than not. I agree. That's why I don't like cutting down on the mana sources when you're going up on cantrips. Because I feel like you just have to have that second mana source naturally. As soon as you start having to cantrip for it, like, the hands just go downhill quick. Opponent last seen today on Boros Energy. Here is a frog. Got the Goblin Bombardment. Double Ranger Captain, Spyro, no third land. So we're going to take a lot of damage here really, really quickly. Never fun. Really kind of hoping this will just like bait them into going for the spell snare. Doesn't look like it is. All right. Spell snare bombardment is down. Now we just have to figure out the everything else part. Yep. Pride of Souls, yep. Plot Pride, yep. Trigger Guide. So I gotta wait until end of turn. They get an Ocelot Pride trigger. Now, if they want to flip the Johnny, they don't get an activation right now. Okay. Also okay. passing here. I play out the Murktide. Hold up Force. I don't think that really matters. You got Ranger Captain. Counterspell the Ranger Captain. Hope they didn't draw like a Ragavan. Just letting this go, I can untap, play an 8/8 Merc out. If I force, they attack in with Cat. I block, flip a Johnny. Damn, Merc force back up. Well, that only works if I draw a blue card, right? Yeah. Guide of Souls giving flying is too big of a deal right here. Okay. That's okay. We'll go block here. No block on the 2/1. Yep. So we need to find a removal spell for the Guide of Souls. Or the cat token. Something. No! Card short. Needed that one more card. Boros, Boros, Boros. Only played against Boros once in the last week. So great to not see it all the time. I only saw it once in Charlotte. Didn't see it in side events on Friday. Seemed like everybody was terrified to register it. What's the Mox build overlay showing? To main board, then it probably is showing the old list, but the deck list link should be right. So make sure that one's correct. Oh, nope, that one's showing Kaito main too. Why did that not get updated? I'm updating it now. All right, that should be correct. Ranger Captain of Eos, sure. I do appreciate how Boros just said, like, you know what, we can't play the ring anymore, so we're just gonna jam every 2-for-1 we can find into the deck. Here's 4 Ranger Captains, like 4 Spyros. Any plans for returning to Oculus anytime soon? I mean, I don't think I was that coy about the thought I had that like Oculus wasn't good before. And so asking to return to it feels like asking to play a deck that I believe is worse. So I'm not just gonna. I would say I don't really have the thought that I want to play Oculus. Maybe I'm sure I'll play some Oculus just for the sake of comparison, but I'm just not jumping out at the idea of like, oh, I need to play Oculus. I want to play Oculus. Oculus is the deck I need to be on, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? I'm gonna consider before this spell bomb goes off in case I found an answer to like a Johnny or Guide of Souls. I can kill those and exile them while I'm at it. I'm gonna go ahead and kill this token now. So if an opponent wants to flip the Ajani, I can attack it down instead of waiting. But yeah, I'm sure that I'll play some more leagues of Oculus at some point. I just think right now with all the like main deck grave hate, I think it's just really, really bad to register at the moment. Um, so I don't really want to just throw it out there for no real reason. Like, I don't feel like there's an advantage to playing Oculus at the moment. Mm, okay. Could have attacked with the army token too. No, you don't do that one. Breach around shouldn't do it, not because of Breach itself, but other decks that are running more graveyard hate due to Breach being around. Right, just like every deck has got main deck Thraben Charm or Bajuka Bog or Relic of Progenitus, Lantern, Soul Guide Lantern, just something in every single deck. And the Unearthed Oculus Shell suffers from that a lot more than the Murktide Shell does. Opponent is empty-handed. This isn't lethal, right? If I go dismember the soul or the guide of souls, um, Bowmaster, the Ragavan, this is 8. So instead, I want to attack all out. Whatever blocks whatever is going to die. And if they choose not to block, I just have a lethal Bowmaster. On to game 3. Keep the same 60. Hand's pretty good, right? Removal spells, got a frog. It's on a mulligan. I do appreciate opponent like going to combat before playing their land or anything. So like not even representing, maybe dashing in a Ragavan. I also don't know if they actually kept a one lander or what here. You're good to throw something away. Did I ever consider minor misstep for the deck? If not, then why? We played it a couple times, like when Boros was by far and away tier 0. I'm talking about when Boros was like 40+% of the meta, or Boros plus what's it called? Mardu were. But after they started falling down, then no, didn't really revisit it after that. Like, I think minor misstep is only good against Boros and nothing else. I'll take another land. I played 2 in the sideboard, and I don't remember it being like bad. But at the time, Boros was running like the 4/1 rings. So I just wasn't losing to the 1 drops. I was losing to the 1 ring. And minor misstep just didn't do anything to help that. I pretty good. Got our second land. We're not putting anything on the stack with. I'm gonna save my frog. I'm going to attach to this frog. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Could put them down to 2. I don't think putting them down to 2 is worth it, since any like fetch for a basic. No, I guess Flage would be fine. Okay, frog is prisoned. I don't mind casting the Preordain after combat there, because even if I drew a Bowmasters, at this point I wouldn't be playing it before combat. I'd be saving it till my opponent's turn in case of like Ragavan or something. Get the extra value instead of just going for the fatal push. Sweet. So we did end up with a 4-1 there. Unfortunately, losing to Storm, which I guess has become my nemesis in recent days. Just playing through Sherlock GG's for sure. Sorry about the mana troubles, game 3. Yeah, like when you passed after that turn 1 Ocelot Pride, I was like, oh, must have been an F6. And nope, never mind. One lander, didn't get there, didn't get there, didn't get there, didn't get there. But I know how that feels. It happened to me one of my games this league. Felt too bad going to 5. I agree. I had like a really solid 7 too, so going to 5 wouldn't have done any favors. So this league, trying out the changes from Charlotte. Yeah, it was like double push, frog, bowmaster, 2 lands, stern scolding or something, and ended up drawing like a couple cantrips that found extra land, Murktide, force, something like that. Just everything kind of spotted up where I needed it. Not sure I was beating that on 7 with lands. It would have been close. It would have been close. But we're trying out the no Tamios, the Kaito back to the board, which I think is where Kaito needs to be. I like the card a lot, but I really think it's only good against black-white. So if you're not expecting a ton of that matchup, I think it's being in the board is just fine. The Harbinger in the main did steal us a game. I don't think it's necessary if you're just wanting to run the 2 in the board, but I kind of had an extra spot there, needed to do something with it. Subtlety was great against Amulet. Murktide Frog were great. Bowmaster still continues to be like the threat I dislike the most. It's good into Boros, but pretty subpar into like everything else. I just don't know what I would replace them with, especially since they're so good against black white. Dismember, fine. Thoughtseize, okay. Push, good. Force, good. Snare, good. Yeah. Just a lot of like, everything's fine. Need more like, this is really good cards. Instead of a lot of, these are all okay cards. You love Bowmasters. I think Bowmasters is like a vanilla card, or as a vacuum card is okay. It's just if you happen to run into a bunch of like Eldrazi and Amulet and stuff like that, Bowmasters is pretty mid. But when you run into a bunch of Boros and Orzhov, then all of a sudden Bowmasters is looking like S tier. So I feel like I honestly only have it in here because of Kaito in the board. Definitely deserves a little more credit than that, but that's just how it's felt. Seems like it might be better post ban. It might be. Again, really just depends on what they decide to ban. They actually like nerf Underworld Breach off the face of the earth, then it could be really, really good. But if they come back and say like, hey, we want to watch Underworld Breach some more, we're not taking action against it just yet, then we'll see. Because it seems like Orzhov was supposed to be good against Breach, but then they ended up struggling, and Breach just kind of like ran away with Charlotte pretty handedly. So if like what was supposed to be one of Breach's really bad matchups turns out to be favorable for them, then we're not really doing a good job if we're trying to play cards that are good into Breach's supposedly bad matchups and Breach is still beating. Things being good against Breach is Copium other than Mill. Turn 2 Psychic Frog's pretty good against Breach. Not invincible, but it's good. Especially with all these Breach lists cutting down to like 2 Urza's sagas, so they can't fetch out their Pithing Needles or Aether Spellbomb so aggressively. But I don't know. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be a few weeks before we get any decent shake up, since there's no telling what the changes will be until then. I always hate these periods where it's just like, don't really know what to expect. Got a few weeks before we find out anything. Nothing's really going on. Got, what is it, Utrecht this weekend. So definitely be watching coverage of that to see if there's any interesting decks that show up. But what kind of questions do y'all have? I don't know if I'm going to be playing another league. Headache started coming back towards the end of that one, and I can feel my voice getting a little bit raspy, so I don't think I'm going to overdo it. But if y'all got questions about the list or what changes I'm looking at, what I think of bans or unbans, this is your opportunity to get everything out in the open. Like, people are always pretty curious about ban opinions, but I know that mine are extreme, so. I don't love Bowmaster. What do I think could be played in its spot? In the main deck, I would look at something like a couple Stern Scolding, and then maybe adding in an extra removal spell, like an extra Shoot the Sheriff, something like that. So just a little extra cheap creature interaction. Maybe go to the 4th Subtlety. Or 4th Murktide. Kaito worth it after you've tested it for quite a bit? What's it working best against? I think it's worth it out of the board against black, white, and any of the control matchups. I don't think it was good out of the main, and I don't think I have any intention of playing it in the main again. But I'm glad that I at least learned that much. What cards do I think can be unbanned? All right. My list of cards that I think can be unbanned and have no impact on the format whatsoever would be Bridge from Below, Blazing Shoal, Bridge from Below, much as I want to say probably Field of the Dead, Hypergenesis, Ponder, honestly probably Seething Song, but just gonna say no for the sake of it. I think any of those wouldn't impact the format, but if we're talking cards that I think would be good unbans because they would make the format more interesting and wouldn't automatically cause anything to just be like overpowered and busted, then I think Deathrite Shaman is fine. I think that Fury is fine. I think another one of my hot takes, I think Mental Misstep is fine. I already said Ponder. Yeah, I think those are my 3. Deathrite Shaman, Mental Misstep, and Fury. The problem with Mental Misstep is every deck would have 56 cards and 4 Mental Missteps. Okay, let me tell you why I hate this argument with a passion. So that argument came about at a time when the format's best removal spells were things like Path to Exile and Lightning Bolt, and everything revolved around 1 mana spells. Nowadays, you can get your 1 mana stuff off Urza's Saga, uncounterable. Your format is warped around things like Solitude, like Mox Opal decks that don't care about Mental Misstep at all. And just either A, ignore it altogether, or B, can make like slight alterations to their deck to ignore it. So the more people that just stop caring about Mental Misstep, the worse Mental Misstep gets. And eventually you'll get into a cycle of, okay, when Mental Misstep is really popular, the format diversifies more into non-1 CMC cards because there's more options now. And then when those options start pushing out Mental Misstep and it drops, then people start playing 1 mana spells again to try to be more efficient, more proactive, and then Mental Misstep starts going back up. But like, it's really hard to justify that, oh, every deck would just run 4 Mental Missteps when you look at a format full of things like Eldrazi that has 0/1 drops whatsoever. So dead card there altogether. You're not mental misstepping a consign to memory. We've got Grinding Station. Okay, you can hit Tameo Preordained Swan Song and then lose to Mox Opal, Mox Amber, Underworld Breach, Grinding Station, Imri, Malevolent Rumble. We've got Boros, pretty good into Guide of Souls, Ocelot Pride. You just have to deal with the whole Flage, Goblin Bombardment, Spyro, Ranger Captain, Ajani, all that stuff. Amulet Titan, like I said with Saga, you can counter a hardcast Amulet. You're not countering one off of a Saga, and you're not dealing with any of this other stuff. I just don't like that argument that, oh, everybody's just running 4 Mental Missteps, because so many decks don't care about Mental Misstep. And it's the same thing with Deathrite Shaman, is you've got all these people that say, oh, Deathrite Shaman's a 1-mana planeswalker. But we were in a format where the best answer to Deathrite Shaman, again, was Lightning Bolt or Path to Exile. Lightning Bolt being like the only relevant removal for red outside of Terminate, and Path to Exiling a Mana Dork has always felt horrible. Now we've got 2.5 trillion other answers to turn 1 Deathrite. So a card that's going to have a bit of impact every turn, but not going to kill you until turn 10 at the soonest, I think is completely reasonable, especially when we're comparing it to Mana Dorks that make things uncounterable, like Delighted Halfling does. Hell, I'll let my opponent have Deathrite every time over Halfling if it means I can Stern Scolding the Grist. I'll take that trade. Then Fury, just because Fury. I don't think Fury should be on the ban list, especially now that there's no grief. People want to in the blind scam a Fury, power to them. But I just think 10 years ago, the modern format was at a point where everything was trending towards 1 mana. Everything needs to be 1 CMC, and Mental Misstep looked great. Now we've got so many alternate cost things that I just don't see it having the same kind of impact. Deathrite being a dork, graveyard hate, and life total manipulation has been much. But why is that much? What is Deathrite doing against Eldrazi or Amulet? Or does Boros give a shit about Deathrite? They got plenty of ways to deal with it, and it's not exiling a Flage on ETB. One thing hit a turn against Grinding Station isn't doing anything. I get what Deathrite can do. I've played Deathrite in Modern. I've played Deathrite in No Banlist Modern. I've played Deathrite in Pioneer, in Standard. I've Legacy, played my share of Deathrites. It's a completely different beast in Legacy than it is in current Modern. And I just don't think it has the same impact that it used to. Back when everything was Twin Mirrors and Jund Mirrors, Delver Mirrors, and yeah, Deathrite was phenomenal when everything was a grindy mid-range fest where every little bit of interaction kind of tilted the scale. but that's not current modern. Every green or black deck would run 4 of. Would Amulet Titan run 4 Deathrite Shaman? Would Eldrazi Ramp run 4 Deathrite Shaman? I just don't think that's accurate. You bet Eldrazi and Amulet Titan would run 4 Deathrite? I'm calling shenanigans. Like, we've had plenty of no ban list events over the years, and I would be hard pressed to have anybody find me a copy of Amulet Titan or Eldrazi that was running Deathrite. The only decks that would are Yawg, Jund, and the Rock, and that's debatable for Yawg. I think there'd be like Dimir Frogless that would splash and run a Deathrite or run like 4 Deathrite. I don't think it would be optimal, but I'm sure that some people would. Yawgmoth would, yeah. But like I said, I'm already more afraid of Delighted Halfling than I am of Deathrite. Black White Blink would play it for Ketcheros. Why would Deathrite, like, I get the comparison of Deathrite to Relic of Progenitus here, but it's not a free exile effect. It doesn't have the explosive draw potential that Relic does. Are you okay with messing up the mana? You'd have to lose the relics, because like you can't play Deathrite and Relic as your Ketchermos enablers. Then if you don't find the Ketchermos, the rest of your deck kind of sucks. Like, are you okay messing up the mana? Cutting Relic, not being as good of a Grave Hate deck? It's like now you're having to main phase use your Deathrite, which makes it worse against all the other Grave decks, where Relic has the potential to pop at any point. I'm not saying they wouldn't. I'm just saying it's definitely not a free inclusion by any means. Good old Jund Saga at 0.2% needs a boost. Struggling. Get these boys off life support. But I don't know. Like, Grave Hate, Mana Dork, Grave Hate, Life Total, Manipulation. But you only get to do one of those things per turn in a format where, like, Flage exists and Urza's Saga exists. Like, cards that are just as versatile, but potentially much higher top end than the Mana Dork that you gotta throw mana into every turn to get any of those effects. Like, realistically, if you looked at Deathrite Shaman, and you said this card cost 10 black and a 1 black green hybrid, and it could kill your opponent on turn 10, you'd say that was absolutely unplayable. But that's the clock that Deathrite Shaman presents. So, not even turn 10, turn 11. So 10 mana and a black green hybrid, and it kills you on turn 11. And some amount of the time, you're going to get to take advantage of the extra mana you can produce. Sometimes there's not going to be a land you can exile. Sometimes you're going to exile an instant or sorcery. Sometimes there won't be one. Sometimes there'll be a creature. Sometimes it doesn't matter what the life total is. Just, I don't think it's, what's a good way of describing it? I don't think it's deterministic enough for current modern. I don't think you have enough control over how good it is. Like in Legacy, Deathrite was ungodly good because you could play turn 1 Deathrite, turn 2 Wasteland your opponent, and now you've got extra mana and they don't. And you're just extremely far ahead at that point. But Modern doesn't have that. Like, maybe you can Deathrite Ghost Quarter your opponent. That sounds awful. You can't, like, Deathrite pick up your land to daze their removal spell on your Deathrite. You're saying Wasteland is the reason Deathrite Shaman was banned in Legacy? No, I'm just saying that the format where Deathrite was so ungodly good had extra tools to do with it being so ungodly good. There's multitude of reasons Deathrite was banned in Legacy, not just Wasteland, but Wasteland absolutely helped. It's the same reason that like Ragavan and Dread Horde Arcanist are banned in Legacy because like those low cost value generating things get so much better when you've got Wasteland and Daze and Forest surrounding them, and you don't have those things in Modern. But like I said before the conversation point started, I also fully admit that my band views are absolutely on the warmer side. I'm okay with that. Like I still think that cards like Luris aren't as bad as they were because now we've got Overlords and Ketchermos, Leyline Binding, and all these things that you can't play with Luris. It's just the power level around it has gone up, even just in the last couple of years. All right. I can feel my cough coming back. So I'm going to send everybody over to Misplaced Ginger, who's playing some Hollow One. So if you want to check that out, feel free to stick around, share some love from the channel. Other than that, appreciate y'all coming and hanging out for the short stream today. We should be back live on regular schedule probably tomorrow. It might be Sunday, but I'm going to try to tomorrow. Sherlock, greatly appreciate it. Other than that, drop a couple links in chat to the Twitter, Blue Sky, YouTube, and the Discord if you want to come join the Control Freak Discord, where I got the schedule up for the stream on there to make sure you don't miss anything. Other than that, I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. Stay safe, enjoy some good food and company. I will catch y'all back live later. Adios for now.